Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Is it ridiculous everywhere you are?
It's humid. It's actually really humid up with us, actually.
It's not that hot here. It's quite windy, so it's not too warm here in Wales.
We've had some gorgeous, mid-storms, all that sort of stuff. Some lovely little flashes.
Yeah, there's been some cracking really good storms here last night, actually.
Yeah.
We woke up to one side of the window was all dark and grey and gloomy, and the other side of the window was this most beautiful blood orange sunrise.
Nice.
Yeah. It was literally split into two, and I thought, which one is coming over?
You know what? Isn't it such a discipline to, when you see stuff like that, actually force yourself to stop and appreciate it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
I always feel the Mother Nature paints a masterpiece for us every day, but how often do we actually stop and look at it?
That's it. Very true.
It's a bit sad in that respect, but I also think, we spend so much time looking down at our phones, don't we? And we don't actually look up.
Yeah. It's not a sad thing at all. Most people would say that's quite profound, but why can't we be profound? You know what I mean? It might be a bit geeky, but who cares? Because we keep harping on about how we should be absorbing our environment and stuff, and when we're in it, we're looking down.
Being present, it's such a discipline, isn't it? It's such a goddamn discipline. Bex has fell over.
Definitely.
I'm just sorry, cracking with my phone. Sorry.
It's okay. You're looking great. Don't worry about it.
Oh, thanks.
Right, girls, I wanted to be respectful of your time, but I always think it's great to keep having returning guests come on, touch base. I know you will be bored ad nauseum with talking about your myriad of crazy adventures, but I always love to give that support where we can and just get it out there as those kind of... I always think a lot of the stuff you're doing is evergreen. Yes, it's stamped in time in terms of obviously when you're doing it. Because what are we now, 14 weeks out?
Yeah, I think so. Pretty much.
14 weeks. That has just come round in a blink. George is checking the calendar. She's like, Jesus, I better start booking some flights.
Panic, there's nothing on it.
Supposed to be having a catch up with some friends then. I rebook that. Social butterfly. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. We last saw each other once again at WFS. Did they? I was actually looking at this was a double check. So I was checking the crowdfunding. They were enormously kind to give a very lovely donation. I didn't see it in there. Did they just do that for the visuals? What was going on? Because I know they've done a massive boost towards it. It's a 10k target, isn't it? We're heading for this time.
No, they have donated to us, but it hasn't gone through the GoFundMe page. That's all.
Awesome. No dramas. It was incredible to see that. That was probably bowled you over because that was half of your target. Now I know WFS has been going for a long, long time, but it always astonishes me when we go to that how many people it's their first time there, or they still haven't heard about it. But I think it's great when people are giving those support and giving the funds and stuff like that. It doesn't just because it's a massive event for WFS to put on every year, and they want to become much more of an international body versus just helping the odd services here or there. But I was pretty blown away when they came up with that donation for you girls. That must have been quite surreal.
Oh, huge! It was absolutely unbelievable. To start off with, it started with the standing ovation. We've never had one of those before ever in my whole life, and probably never going to be repeated. No, never. Oh. I know, and that was Bex would even admit that her chin was wobbling at that particular point in time. Yeah.
My bottom lip had gone, to be fair, and I'm pretty. I hold emotions back really in public, but my bottom lip was properly going.
What do you think it was that meant about that sort of environment, sorry, Bex? Because you have both performed on some big stages, both in a sports context and other things. But there's something unique about that type of audience. I don't know. It's like the people that were in the room. Why does that sort of place hold a sort of place in your guys' heart, I suppose?
Just where it all started, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's where it all started. Go on.
Yeah, and they're our peers, aren't they? They're our colleagues, our peers, and we were doing it, partly for female firefighters, for the people in that crowd. We took them with us, really, and our we had to be successful for them, for female firefighters. So for to have that applause off them meant probably more than any we've had in any other talk, because it's so relatable, isn't it, to them? That's why we did it. So I think that's why it was so emotional for us.
Do you think it's gotten bigger than just that now? Like it's important to recognise where we came from, and we never outgrow our shell, and I'm sure you constantly hit with that imposter syndrome. But part of me, with the attention and with obviously the series and the sort of documentary that was done on it, we're never going to forget where we started, but I'm wondering if this kind of outreaches beyond our sector now, because firefighting is a niche within a niche. It's within the first responders in the sector. You girls have been approached, and I know some of the places that you're speaking at. Does it feel like you've kind of become bigger than, you're not bigger or better than anything, but do you know what I mean? It's kind of like this stands for a little bit more than that now, because I know people who aren't even in the fire service, aren't even in the emergency services, that take a lot of inspiration from what you do. Is that kind of that surreal thing that it's kind of outgrown the shell a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we never thought we'd be invited into some of the arenas that we've been invited into. I mean, there's we've crossed over into NHS. It's brilliant that we've reached out into other emergency service workers as well. So NHS is one of them as well. In such a big corporation as well, to be able to invite it into that particular world. And there's a lot in the private sector as well, and sectors, again, as you said, not associated with any blue light or emergency service or anything like that, and they're getting to know about it, and it's literally just word of mouth, all the way from law firms to oh gosh, help me out here, Bex.
Construction networks. Obviously lots of schools and stuff. We have done stuff with the police as well, with some police services. So it's a real mix, actually. And it's been crazy, isn't it, George? A real mix of different types of companies.
Because there's loads of carryover and crossover, isn't there, from what you do? It's like there's the team dynamics aspect of it. Yes, there's the motivation side of it, but the endurance, the resiliency, the fortitude, the teamwork in the logistics. It really is a tremendous example, both, the initial challenge that you've both taken part in, and now to roll into something in a similar field. But again, the logistical challenge on this, because it's not just one location, you go in seven locations, 7 marathons. This, in ways, is maybe, I don't know if it's a smaller physical challenge. It's certainly a different physical challenge, but logistically, this one actually feels a bit harder.
Definitely. It is harder, but I mean, it is very, very, very different. I mean, neither of us are runners. I do like running, but I wouldn't class myself as a runner.
Who likes running? Runners don't like running.
I'm one of the weird ones that like running. Yeah. I don't mind running. I get a lot out of running. Get a lot of satisfaction out of it. But it's very different in the fact that we don't have to qualify for it, and we don't have to. It's very little organisation for it. So there's no 4-year build-up to it, because for Antarctic, obviously, we had to qualify for that. We had to build up all that evidence in order to go unguided. But this is very much organised, and I think the main crux of it is that we wanted to do something to continue with the legacy, to continue with the message about changing the narrative, what it means to be a girl. And we needed to strike while the iron was hot. And when the invite came in to actually do it this year instead of next year, we couldn't turn that invite down, really, because the message was the most important thing. And we just had to, we've got all that resilience and all that sort of, all that slam in the body for everything it shouldn't be doing under our belts kind of thing. And then we kind of try to rationalise it for ourselves then, and convincing ourselves that it was a good idea to do it this year. Even though at the time when we were asked to do it this year, we were both still recovering from the expedition, trying to put on a bit of weight and a bit of bulk and stuff. And we were like, well, no, let's do it, and we're advocates for saying yes to stuff within reason, and say yes to stuff. And if we didn't say yes this year, we would obviously do it next year, but maybe that momentum wouldn't be there and hit the ground running. I mean, it's made us insanely busy, because we're setting up the foundation as well and things. But, that's a good thing. It's definitely, and as they say, the devil works. Devil makes work for idle minds. Yeah. So,
So how do let me jujitsu flip that on its back for a second, because you're an advocate for saying yes for things, but as you'll both know, and you probably knew way before this, but it's probably like been hit with steroids now, is like, how do you say no to stuff? Because you, like you say, you've been inundated with many, many worthy causes, many, many incredible groups that would like to inspire all of their teams and their colleagues and their followers and whatever with your story. You've both got, families, partners, jobs. I like my job every now and again asks me to go in and do some work, which is so insensitive of them. I don't think they understand what it is we're trying to do here. But, learning how to say no is actually very, very difficult, isn't it? Because you just become a busy fool, setting yourself on fire to keep everybody warm. So talk to me about saying no, Bex, because otherwise you're just like, you can't pour from an empty cup, can you?
No, do you know what? It is so difficult because we want to get out there and we want to get the word out there and we want to try and inspire as many people as we can. And we hate saying no to anything. So it is a nightmare, and it's something that we're continually trying to work on. And I think the only reason we say no at the moment is that if we can't fit it in because we're working, that's pretty much it, isn't it, George? Really,
it's also a financial thing as well, though. Let's be honest. Like, we get invited to a lot of stuff, and they're like, "We've got a great opportunity for you. Come and speak about this. Come and do a podcast on that." And I'm like, "Sounds incredible. Can you pay for the travel and the accommodation? Because otherwise, I'm spending all of my family's money to come and do your thing." It's a bit.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that, and I think George and I have got a little bit better over the months after the expedition to be a little bit more picky with what we do and to ask for expenses, at least expenses for depending on who it is and what we're doing, etc. Because you're right, otherwise we're paying for our services for somebody else. So
and also it's about knowing your value as well, isn't it? And that's 100%. A really, really tough one. It's like, we've done an incredible thing. We're serious about it. We're not messing about. We actually do what we say we're going to do. And then I almost feel like when people say, oh, come talk about first responding, or I don't know if you have it the same with like, oh, come and talk about females in the first responder community. Sometimes I feel like people feel like they're doing you a favour, and it almost comes across a bit condescending. I'd be like, well, you're going to need to pay us for that because we're actually very good professional speakers, and you're paying that person £1,000 a day. And again, we're not going to get into all of that, but talk to me a little bit about knowing your value, because this is something a lot of women, certainly in the fire service, will be able to relate to. It's like, no, I am qualified professional. I am very good at what I do. I deserve to be here, and you should recognise that. That's a tough one for a lot of people. It's that imposter syndrome thing, isn't it, George?
Yeah, we're predisposed to apologising first. And then asking afterwards.
Oh, sorry. So, only if there's room. Only if there's room. Can I get in? No, that's my seat. Yeah. I'm here. You know what I mean?
Oh, it is. It is. It's totally. And I can't tell you how many people I've told off for saying stop apologising. It's absolutely fine. And then I go and do it myself. And every single time, and they tell me off. So everybody knows that every woman that I've spoken to, everybody knows that they do it, but they always lead with an apology. And yes, that imposter syndrome is definitely there. And the would you mind awfully if we asked if you could cover our expenses, and they're like, and then the first thing they come back is with, oh, absolutely yes, we didn't presume that you were going to come back here and stuff like that. And and as Beck said, we have got better, but we're still pretty awful.
So you whisper to each other afterwards and then go, because I've done this many times on the podcast where I go, I should have asked for more. Like they just said yes straight away. I should have said, can you put £500 in the charity as well, please? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you feel like, oh God, I've undersold myself here.
Yeah. I think we're still in that phase like we're like, oh, they want us.
No.
Yeah. I think we have got a bit over the months, and because we never knew quite how big we would end up. Not we're not huge, but how much this will go,
yes,
how far this
Bex.
will go. I think. Okay,
you
we're
out.
massive.
Call you out on that BS. All right.
But yeah, we didn't. I don't think we quite. We knew we'd have some exposure. We didn't quite realise how big it would be when we got back. So we have got better over the months at asking, this is our fee for certain companies, but also just knowing more of our value. And because we did so much stuff. Before the expedition, we did loads and loads and loads of stuff just for free. I don't think we really we just sold ourselves enough, really. So I think we've got a lot better at it this year, or over just experience, I think, at being in meetings and talking to people about it, and trying to not undersell ourselves. I think that's the big thing, isn't it? I think realizing that people actually want us and they want our story and they're really excited has gone a long way to it.
I think it's I had a great analogy around building a mountain out of layers of paint. Every time you do what you say you're going to do, it's a layer of authenticity. And every time you do that, you're painting that. And before it stops hopefully becoming that imposter syndrome, because you're stood in your own identity. I am who I say I am. You know what I mean? I said I was going to do it. I did it. I said I was going to be here. I am. Just stand back and watch. This is going to be great. You watch the crowd go wild. Do you know what I mean? And I always try and have that in my head. When I have that little bit of imposter syndrome, I have this internal monologue that just says like, watch this. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm just like, oh, I'm not sure this, I'm not sure that. Someone says, Pete, you're up next, and they hand you the microphone, and I'm just like, watch this. Because I know I can do it. And you guys know you can do it. For God's sake, you've had standing ovations of, hundreds and hundreds of people, if not thousands, when you go to them these other things. It's like, but you don't want to tip into that ego, because that becomes so ugly, doesn't it? But I think when we say pride, it's painted with so many negative connotations, and we have these silly phrases, don't we? Pride comes before a fall, and it's one of the 7 deadly sins is pride. And you're like, well, why shouldn't we be proud of ourselves? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it's a bit of a Western world thing as well. Like, we're very self-deprecating, aren't we? This episode is brought to you in partnership with MSA Safety. Today we have them to thank for the improved firefighter safety through connectivity in their brand new connected firefighter system. At the center of the connected firefighter platform is the MSA M1 SCBA with telemetry. That integrates straight in with the Luna system, which is a wireless all-in-one device creating an independent search and rescue network, providing edge detection, enhanced personal thermal imaging, while simplifying post-scene reporting and data retention. All of this then plugs into the FireGrid system for cloud-based connectivity, real-time information, and data-driven decisions for the incident commander. MSA are truly taking massive strides in the future of improved firefighter safety through connectivity in the brand new MSA connected firefighter platform. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I think it's a way of keeping it's a weird way. It's a weird way of keeping our feet on the ground. And for me, the whole imposter syndrome thing, it's like a subliminal way of staying humble almost. Like it's strange the way what we do to ourselves, because I don't think we find it really difficult to stay humble and enjoy the attention. So so without crossing over that very fine line of looking or becoming arrogant, complacent, all those quite vulgar words that none of us want to be associated with, and it's a very, very very sensitive area that we're maneuvering in. I think, but when we're up on the stage and we're speaking, I don't feel like an imposter at all. When I'm actually speaking, I'm there because I love sharing the story, and I love sharing, everything that we've both done and everything like that. And at the moment, we're still sharing our stories, and we're still remembering stuff that we did on the expedition that we haven't shared in previous talks. And then we surprise each other at it. So we've got that sort of banterish relationship on the stage with each other, because we're still going, oh my God, I didn't remember that, and all of a sudden you just reminded me of that, and you can tell, like, if one of us has suddenly remembered something, they'll start smiling, and like, I can't believe I forgot that, And I think that's why we're becoming more relatable, is because we have that relationship on the stage. And it is quite unique in respect that normally when people go out and do these expeditions, they come back and then they separate and they go and do their own speaker thing, or, the tour date and tour thing and stuff. But we've stayed together, and that's testament to our relationship. And it's and it adds so much value to be able to have two people standing on the stage. We do two for the price of one. We charge the same price, for private companies and stuff. So, but they get a lot of bang for their buck.
And that's what I always say when we do stuff with partners. I'm like, it should feel like a bargain. What we're doing should feel like an absolute bargain for you. And I always say to them, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Because we're all over the shop, and like we can be very agile in what we do with just talking about the podcast for a second there. And it's like, if it's not an absolute hell yes, please don't feel like you're doing me a favor, because I don't want a relationship like that. Do you know what I mean? And certainly for you girls, it's like we're worth it. This should feel like an absolute bargain for you, because with the greatest of respect, and I'm not trying to throw salt at other speakers, but like a lot of other speakers speak about resiliency with the greatest respect and try and frame it in a context of, and work situations and everything like that require some resiliency. But most of them are trying desperately hard, in my opinion, not yours, to make a very emotive story when you haven't got to try and do that, because you've actually done the thing. I have most people are trying to talk about something that first responders in general, and this is always my passion for first responders. I'm like, doctors, police officers, paramedics, firefighters, they're doing the thing every day. They just haven't got time to write a book about it because they're too busy goddamn doing it. Do you know what I mean? They could write a book about resiliency probably every week with the amount of stuff that first responders have to go through, but they're just so burnt out, they're never going to have a chance to do it. But no, I think you girls are absolutely right in that sweet spot of authenticity, and you actually keep doing it as well. How many people to the nearest 100 have tried to crowbar themselves as an extra partner of the Antarctic Fire Rangers now? Because obviously the team in its origin was a larger team, and it's incredible that you two have managed to make it all the way through this, and now you're going on and taking on new ventures. But it's a heavy load, and I'm not trying to audition myself here because I've been told no too many times. I'm willing to change my identity, I'm willing to do all of that, but apparently it's not enough, so I'll stop asking. You must have had a lot of people try and get in on this and say, I'd love to do something with you. That's got to be a hard no. That's got to be really hard to say.
Yeah, we've definitely had a lot of interest, and I think because George and I have a lot of fun as well. We don't take ourselves too seriously either, and I think we like being around lots of other people. They're having great fun with us and want to be part of the gang almost. And but we've always said, I think for now, really going forward, the Fire Angels is George and I, but we. Moving forward, we can have people that come along and
that's what I mean.
Either help out or jump on certain stuff that we're doing and things like that as kind of, not extras, but part of the team. Yeah. But I suppose George and I are the kind of original kind of Fire Angels, really. I think, and but I think people understand that as well. But we love to share what we're doing with other people and have and other people get to have some of the experiences that we've had as well. That's the whole point of it as well, isn't it? Is inspiring people to want to do what we've done or are doing. So we hope that people sort of continue to do some of the stuff that we've got to do. Definitely.
There's that consideration about doing something UK based, where people could get on board and get involved in it, get all their own money. And I know George is raising her eyebrows. I'm not going to ask you to divulge anything because I know how your minds work, and I'm sure this stuff is all... Because there will be people saying this, like, can we do so-and-so events in association with Antarctic Fire Rangers and have you two as that ambassador team doing whatever it is you do, going around the UK 27 times with a fire engine on your back or something ridiculous. I know just as the warm-up, and people can come along and join you. But I think that's because I always say you can go faster alone and further together, and what you stand for is a representation. I always think of it like the couch to 5K. Like, not everyone's going to want to run an ultra marathon, but they want to join whoever, Mo Farah, and do a 5K with him. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I think...
Having a bit of a piece of the action, or a small part of involvement in it, and that's certainly where George and I would like things to go, I think. And I don't know if you've had some listening devices in our homes or something.
Always. But that's me breathing heavy outside the door. That's usually me for many reasons.
But yeah, in the future, that's certainly something that we would. We may want things to go, definitely, to have more people having a little piece of what we're doing, definitely.
Well, the only thing I ask is come on and bloody talk about it, because that would get absolute fire. People would love that. Yeah. Sorry, George, go on.
But I was going to say, there is a plan. So there is a plan.
I have a cunning plan, my lord.
Yeah. Baldrick. I have a, yes. Yes.
I knew there
So
would
yeah,
be
there is a
because I
plan,
know that's
and
it.
yeah, it's kind of like very broadly called bringing it home.
Beautiful.
So yeah. So it'll be not next year, possibly the year after. So
Love
yeah.
it.
But knowing that somebody will go, oh, can you do it this year because we're doing so and so and so. We're like,
Well,
right, you're really going to have to go straight to our chiefs because they've got to give us the time off.
yeah, and also if you're good enough, people will wait. People will wait for you. They will wait for you. You know, oh yeah, you can do your own rubbish version now if you'd like to, or if you want to wait for
Yeah.
us, we'll make it really good. You know, so we spoke about when we just started recording, like bringing our feet into the present and being where we are. Talk to us because we've kind of just skipped past it. That's entirely my fault. What is the 777? Talk to us about the Great World Race.
Go on then, Snippy. This is your idea.
Snippy.
Yeah. Well, firstly, this kind of stupid challenge kind of was all because of Instagram.
Okay.
So it must be listening to my phone and
That's
me.
why I've got
and,
most of the stupid tattoos I've got. I blame Instagram.
Yeah, that's it. It just popped up on my Instagram feed, and I sent it to George and thought, it sort of half joking, half not, or maybe we should look at this as another thing to do. And this was probably about 2 weeks post Antarctica, so it wasn't long after we got back. And she said, "Oh, let's do it." And then I was like, "Oh,
George is
God."
still coaxing polar thire or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Rubbing cream into
George
my
probably got
thigh and
more.
my ass while she's sending me ridiculous things off Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to wait till I get over this rash and see if I can actually poo without the blinding, burning pain again. Then sure,
Exactly.
why not?
Wait. Yeah. So that's where the idea came from, and then stupidly.
I'm just
and then
trying to pass solids at the minute. Give me a second.
Yeah. And then I thought, well, we can't just be generic runners, in this race. There's 60 athletes. We can't just be generic runners. So we've got to do it in fire gear with a BA set, so we're visible as firefighters. So George wasn't too happy about that information, but it's all about visibility, isn't it? And we've got to stand out, and why we're doing it. So basically, the race is 7 marathons in 7 days, consecutive days on 7 continents. So we basically live on a plane for a week.
Beauty.
And we fly overnight, land on each continent, do a marathon, get back on the plane, fly to the next one. So we'll have no idea what time zone we're in by the end, and probably be rolled off in wheelchairs by the end of day 7.
So there's a million questions I want to ask about that, but a few of the big ones, and I'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge some of the support, some of the people that have got in there really early and get on board. So obviously, making up what it would take to do that. Yes, there's a lot of flights and stuff like that. With the original expedition, there was a massive host of kit and everything like this, and you had like 50, 60 something big and small partners and sponsors and stuff like this. It looks like you've obviously got Draeger on board. I'm assuming they're supporting with the sets and hopefully some financial support as well. Who's doing your kit?
Well, kit wise, there isn't much. So, apart from the fire kit.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
because I know I introduced you to a colleague of mine recently, but I don't know if that ever came to fruition.
I'm still waiting on an answer with that. With
useless people.
I know, and
Jesus.
I've chased it up and had nothing, so I'm still waiting.
I'll go to somebody else.
Yeah, we don't know who else to go to, do we?
Okay.
I'm thinking.
There's a few.
We need some companies.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, Draeger are doing the BA set and a helmet, and obviously they don't do fire kit. Otherwise, we would have gone all Draeger. But I think it was MSA that we approached, and we had very good lead. Now we always kind of give the benefit of the doubt. It's August and people go on holiday and stuff, but. She was quite keen to start off with. So I mean,
Vicky will get it across the line. She just needs to get it in front of Kev. But if they don't, I will just throw Rosenbauer at you. I'm just going to say that, and they will snap your hand off very, very quickly. People keep messing about, then they'll just go to somebody else. This is what really frustrates me about things like this, because people just don't get their head out of their bottom quick enough, and then they moan at me later on because they missed an opportunity and why didn't I introduce them to someone? I'm like, well, I've done it.
Yeah.
So get it done.
Let's go. There we go then, Bex. So we just go straight to Rosenbauer then, and
they need to get somebody needs to get their finger out their bottoms. I know they've got important things to do, but we virtue signal about supporting things and all this sort of stuff. And let's acknowledge MSA and Rosenbauer and many others exist. All support. We have a different supplier that supports the pink firefighters and all this sort of jazz. But I appreciate it doesn't bring in, I always think it's a lag measure. It's not a lead measure. So like talking to a fire service and getting them on board to sell them all of your Draeger sets or your MSA sets is a direct that adds into the capital. But the lag measures like this, which is where all the eyeballs are, and when I say this, I'm talking about you girls, not me. This is where the eyeballs go. And I think sometimes we get those things reversed because we say it's about the people, but then sometimes I know these places have got to pay bills and they've got to make the turnover and all that sort of jazz, but this is just a no-brainer. Like I said about a hell yes, it's a hell yes. They just need to get it sorted, otherwise they miss their opportunity. So you've got Draeger, obviously women in the fire service, really, really supporting you. Supply Plus came online, which is nice to see them in there, because did you meet them at the WFS?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, so
it's good to see them on board.
he was straight in with his card, and has tried to get as much as he can. So so they came in. Yeah, so I mean, we actually need. It's 35k, isn't it? 35k now. So 10k was the deposit, so which we've reached. And I know it all happened very, very quickly, and now classically it's all slowed down again. And it's what we experienced with the expedition. To be fair, it slowed down. We're hoping because we're speaking at the emergency services show, we're hoping we've got a 40-minute slot with a Q&A afterwards. That's a big old slot. Normally people get about 15 minutes. So so we're hoping.
I've not heard of that.
The Blue Light Show
that's going to generate some interest. Sorry?
Have the Blue Light Show reached out to you yet?
No.
Okay, yeah, because it's a brand new event, starts next year. So we're going to be the main host for it, and it's at the Olympia in London. So it's not competition for the Emergency Services Show. The Emergency Services Show, I always say to people, what do you go to the Emergency Services Show for? And total honesty, it's a massive, really, really cool, really impressive market stall for fire engines and kit and things. And I know they have been doing the speaker thing for a little bit, but they have the speaker areas, but I don't think it's fully set up for it. And these are my words, not yours, because every 5 seconds a bloody fire engine siren goes off. And there's a few seats here and there. But anyway, the Blue Light Show is solely big auditoriums for speakers. So subject matter experts, people with great stories to tell and all this sort of stuff. I was at their board meeting down in London a few weeks ago, and they were asking me for a list of speakers, and you girls were like right at my top 3. So they should be reaching out to you, but I'll make a note now to give you their details, because they've also got some money, and so they should be dipping into that.
Amazing, yeah.
But yeah, that's a great place. And also, because it's the Blue Light Show, you'll get support from, there's also a lot of ambulance, police, military, NHS, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, I've made a note of that. I'll put you in contact with them just after this. The young lady that's engaging with all the speakers, she'll get onto it. Take us back, because we've jumped straight off it. So we said about the partners, we said about, so what are you actually doing? Talk to me about what 777 means. The team here at the podcast are extremely excited to announce our brand new partnership with Patrol Store UK. Patrol Store has been serving the UK's police, fire and emergency communities and first responder sector since 2008, providing leading brands such as Hikes, Magnum, 511, Nebo, OpZulu, Highlander, AKU and many, many more of our favourites. They are now also supplying bespoke uniform, PPE and station workwear to fire services around the UK. So for all our listeners that are part of your USAR, your HEART team, your ISAR team, your armed response teams, your fire investigation, your NALO, your hazmat and all of the training departments that have got your own budgets, be sure to get the absolute best for your team at a realistic price by contacting Aaron and the team at Patrol Store and referencing the Firefighters podcast. Patrol Store will also be taking part in our listener competition giveaways, as well as providing unique discounts to podcast listeners. So for people that are always asking about Hikes boots as an example, that is one unique discount code that is coming to you very soon through Patrol Store. We've also got some incredible bags. I mean, the OpZulu bags are a game changer. So the really Gucci and expensive tactical black bags that everyone's using in CrossFit workouts and taking to the gym and taking to stations? Well, they've basically got that, but it's made better and costs less, because they're not slapping some Gucci expensive brand name on it and it's giving you what you want on a first responder salary. Be sure to keep your eyes in the notes of the episodes for links to unique offers and discount codes. And if you're looking to buy well and buy once, be sure to get in the notes and head over to Patrol Store UK. Now back to the show.
So the first one is on Antarctica. So we get to go back to Antarctica, a different area of Antarctica. And the next one, then we fly up into Cape Town, and then Cape Town to Perth, which is going to be hot and humid. That's going to be a tough one. Yeah. And then it's 2 in Istanbul, because that covers Europe and Asia. That's a nice hotel stay, thankfully. So we can get some proper food in, some proper recovery, get really excited about the next one in a hot country. And then we're off to South America and Cartagena.
Wow.
And then we finish in Miami, baby. So, yeah. So whistle stop tour
Easy
of
for you
the
to say.
world, of the continents.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's, look, the main thing is that, as Bex was saying, it's about the visibility. You know, we're still in, you know, there's a couple of countries there that we're going through where, you know, women are still considered, you know, the bottom of the pecking order. But it obviously in, you know, Western society and in our country as well, and other countries where there's a lot of feeling where women are still not considered capable of doing these particular jobs. You know, I mean, I still get questioned now, you know, is that a job for a woman all the time? And I'm looking at them going, I've been doing it for 26 years, pal. You know, if it wasn't a job for a woman, do you think I'd still be there? You know, it's a job for everybody. And so it is about pure visibility. And I know I threw my toys when Beck said, we need to do it in fire kit and a BA set. You know, at that point in time, I was still recovering and feeling very frail. So, and vulnerable. But she's right, and it's what we need to do to get to carry on that message, and it needs to be quite hard hitting as well. And if it wasn't hard for us, and if anybody could do it, then what would be the point? What's the point? It needs to be that hard hitting. And as I said with Antarctica, we risked our lives to prove our point. You know, so kind of went in at the top there to risk our lives to prove our point. But why not? You know.
Otherwise, it's hypocrisy, isn't it? Like you say, it's got to be something that's challenging. Otherwise, everybody would do it. That's sometimes when I see the challenge with some of the fundraiser stuff that you see out there, and you're like, I bloody did that last week. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, the hardest thing you've ever done is the hardest thing you've ever done. So that it is a spectrum. And for some people, like we did this MAM Tour thing with the WFS team where they go and walk around MAM Tour Circular. And for some people, that was the most difficult thing they'd perhaps ever done. And it reminded me of that old Sir Edmund Hillary quote where it was like, we climb mountains not to conquer the mountain, but to conquer ourselves. Do you know what I mean? And that really is what this whole stuff is. It's a whole exploration. Another team members joined. Who got the brains? The brains of the organisation has finally arrived. Correct us. I know. Oh, I love you, Mama. When we spoke about inspiration and people that have perhaps taken something from this, has there been, I mean, I'm sure there's been hundreds and I'm putting you on the spot here. Has there been anyone, I've got to name names, people that have seen what you've done and shared that level of inspiration that it's given them perhaps to take on their own challenge, whether that be personal or career? Or is there anything specifically that's really touched you when you've been and spoken somewhere and just been approached by a member of the public?
I've had a few guys from work saying that they'd watched our documentary and their other halves had been inspired to start going to the gym or exercising, going out for walks and things like that. So, you know, which is awesome because I don't even know who these people are, but just from watching the documentary, they've been inspired to do that. So, I mean, which is really nice because that's what we ultimately aim to do, isn't it? And I know when I did a talk at a primary school, it was quite soon after we'd come back from the Antarctic, and my cousin, who's the head of that school, basically said that the kids were making sleds in the playground during their lunchtime. They were building sleds out of random stuff in the playground and pretending they were dragging them around the schoolyard like they were out in Antarctica after I'd spoke to them, which is really sweet, wasn't it? So
ever heard the quote that true leaders are readers? Well, we believe this is true. Listeners often ask where we go to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the sector globally. So there are a few key publications which I encourage you to go check out. Now, if you're looking for insights on disaster management, fire protection and firefighting, for us, we go to Asia Pacific Fire Magazine. And when you're looking for the latest on the Middle East fire protection industry and fire services, it's Gulf Fire Magazine. And our quarterly check-in is with International Firefighter Magazine, reporting to municipal, industrial and fire training professionals. Now, next up, I'm widely accepted to be the global voice for of passive and active fire protection. This is a good one. It's International Fire Protection Magazine. And finally, and perhaps the most relevant to our predominantly UK audience, I'd strongly suggest subscribing to UK Fire Magazine, reporting to the United Kingdom fire protection industry and fire services. We're really excited to announce that after a long-standing relationship and mutual respect, we've now partnered with MDM Publishing, who bring you all of these essential publications. Because in a world of change, the learners shall inherit the earth, while the learned shall find themselves perfectly suited for a world that no longer exists. Eric Hoffer said that, and I believe he was right. So keep growing, keep learning, and keep yourself in the know and at the cutting edge of what's happening globally by dropping into the notes. And as a gift from the podcast, you can actually subscribe to any of these publications for free using the link in our notes. Now back to the show. And I think the number of things are those that never even make their way to you. Do you know what I mean? That you never really hear about, because it takes a lot for people to reach out and either send that message, or it's just by chance if they meet you and go, oh, sorry, I don't want to bother you, but I just wanted to let you know that A, B, C, and X, Y, Z, what you did really meant a lot to me. And you just go, oh my God, there's probably thousands of those.
I've been approached by, mostly people that I know and a couple of that I don't know, that for older women, basically doing it for the older generation, menopausal women, and basically saying, I thought, my kids are gone and I'm menopausal, and I just thinking to myself, like, that's it now. I've turned into an old husk of myself, and turn to dust. And if somebody opens the window and it's a bit breezy, that's it. I blow away out the window. And I've seen people sort of, not necessarily. I've heard people not necessarily, taking up their challenges or something, but being quite. Not getting disheartened over the fact that that they're potentially coming to what they consider, or what society considers, the end of their productive life, kind of thing, and getting more heartened of the fact that there is something that they can do, not necessarily this year or the next year, but they're planning, they're looking, they're doing stuff, going out for walks more and going to meet their friends more, giving them confidence to go and do things, connect with people a bit better, whereas before, their confidence might be waning a little bit, and it does. Self-confidence is one of those, self-esteem is one of those things that happens to women as they get older. So, or lack of,
especially when you go through that menopausal element, and I'm not going to pretend to know, but we had a lady on that wrote a book called Man's Guide to Menopause, just for a great awareness piece and the indicators and all this sort of stuff. And it really is a huge death of an identity, because a woman's womanhood, feels like when you go through that chapter of life, so many elements you would associate with your womanhood and all those elements feel like they're stripped away from you because of nature's natural cycle. And then it's struggle to find who you are and what you stand for, and feeling like a woman, feeling like a powerful, independent woman who is capable still.
Yeah, it depends how you look at it, really. And there is that stripping of that female identity to a certain extent. I myself, I'm actually looking forward to getting to the other side of menopause when I don't have to buy Tampax anymore. Because
it's one less thing to put in the expedition bag, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. It weighs a lot when you have to take a bucket full of Tampax out on an expedition. It actually weighs more than you think. And it's quite, it's quite an inconvenience, So it's quite funny. I talk to people. I'm like, well, actually, I can't wait to stop and get into the next bit of my life. It's like when your car insurance comes down, and there are benefits to it. You've got to think.
What? That is such an example of your mindset, though, George. Just that reframing. Do you know what I mean? That's always so. I always say disposition versus position. Like in many places, you can't change your position in life, whether it's work, relationship, you can change it, maybe work you could quit. But certainly when it comes to physical aspects of your life and your age, certainly you can't change your position. But your disposition, the way you feel about it, the way you interpret it, is it the beginning or is it the end? What the caterpillar calls the end of life, the butterfly calls the beginning. So it's just that next chapter, I suppose, isn't it? And you've got to lean into it, because otherwise your perception is your reality, and it's very easy to start getting into that woe is me victim mentality, isn't it? If you're a regular listener to the podcast, then chances are you are big into your own personal development and the development of firefighters around you. So I wanted to remind you of our mobile app Drill Book. This is a free training and development resources made by firefighters for firefighters. Heading on to Drillbook, you will find incident debriefs, radio messages, notes and lines, quick reference guides, quizzes every single day, We've got useful links to the ERG, to Web Rescue, to Jessup, Euro Rescue, 10-second triage, National Operational Guidance, and not to mention our daily quizzes where you will find questions on extrication, casualty handling, breathing apparatus, fire development, water rescue, rope rescue, you name it. It is the go-to resource if you've got a spare 5 minutes on the firehouse to develop yourself and those around you. Not only that, if you're looking to get into the fire service, we've got advice on there on interview questions, interview answers. You can build your own questioning in there. And again, remember, this is built by firefighters for firefighters. So you can add your own drills in there. You can pick the drills that you find the most favorite. There is literally hundreds of training ideas, hundreds of drills in there. Remember, this app is absolutely free and it grows every single day down to the contributions of our thousands and thousands of users. It's freely available on Android, Apple, and you will find it in the links for this podcast. Remember, it's called personal development. The clue's in the name. You've got to work twice as hard on yourself as you do on the job. So always be growing, always be developing. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, oh, definitely, and it is one of those things that we just have to accept. You know, whether you're the woman going through it, or and the male partner, the male colleagues, and everything. You know, there's everybody goes through it. You know, and it's that you have to be able to understand it in order to move forward. Mm-hmm. You know, that this change is happening. You know, change isn't always a bad thing. Some changes are very positive. Mm-hmm. One of the, is, as I said before, is saving money on sanitary products, mm-hmm. but not having to worry about that anymore. Mm-hmm. But there's the other identity of things. There's other things that happen to the female body during menopause as well. I would consider myself one of the luckier ones. Mm-hmm. Touch wood, I'm not getting the really some of the bigger symptoms. I mean, probably one of my biggest things is tinnitus. I've got like a low level tinnitus and things. So that's not helpful in certain surroundings. It's changed the way I process sound in a noisy room and stuff. So it's one of the more weird ones, but there's some of the more aggressive symptoms out there that thankfully I'm not experiencing just yet. But I mean, I have all the peaks and the troughs in the hormones, and I have all the mood swings, and imposter syndrome is huge for me at the moment. I'm very much, sometimes some months I'm like bad and I'm like, why am I doing this? There's no point to this. Somebody else better could be doing this. I have those real sort of dark moments. But it's about recognizing that is happening to you and knowing that it's temporary, and you will work your way out of it. It is a temporary feeling, and you will work your way out of it.
Everything does.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm fortunate. I'm in a same-sex relationship. My partner's also going through perimenopause as well. So there is an element of understanding between us, So, and when we're opposite ends of the house, exactly what mood we're in.
Did you see the Brené Brown piece where she talks about what percentage are you bringing today? Like she came up with a good framing where when you're in a relationship, you say, look, Bex, I've got 40% today. I'm having a rough day, I've got 40%. And together we need to try and reach 100%. So if you're proper on it and you can lean in and hold me, and you're like, Pete, it's fine, I've got 70% today. But if I've got 40% and you've got 40%, we know that within that 20% gap, we need to give each other some verbal space, maybe some physical space. We need to give each other room for those loose elbows of behavioral glitches that we might have when we're not at our best. But it's just communication, isn't it? And I think so many people now struggle. And I think we're losing the art of communication, difficult conversations, which is exactly what we have with our partners. I think the more difficult conversations you're willing to have, probably the better your relationships are. Because if they're doing something that you don't like and you can't communicate it, it's the old thing about uncommunicated expectations are premeditated resentments. Because if I don't tell you that I don't like it, then you're going to build up a resentment to that thing because I've just not communicated. You do this, I'd really love it if you didn't, it makes me feel this way, whatever it is. And then you build up a resentment just because you've closed down communication a little bit. It's so hard. I think it's so hard. It's
we assume that everybody can read our minds. That's the issue. We assume that everybody's a mind reader, and we're not mind readers.
Yeah.
And I think just going back to that communication thing, this is why Bex and I are still friends.
I was going to say that.
Because believe me, we bickered. Yeah, we bickered over the smallest of things. Like the smallest of thing was our biggest Everest out on Antarctica. And if we didn't say it to each other, or at the end of the day, or during the day, or whatever, we wouldn't. Well, one of us would have a ski pole in the back of our neck.
But it's the things you find endearing to start with, isn't it? Is the quirks. Like when you get into a new relationship, and you go, the way she brushes her teeth is just, oh my God, so attractive. And then after 7 years, you're like, you fucking breathe a lot, don't you? Like every day you just breathe. Do you know you breathe so loud? And it's just like, it's the smallest things, isn't it? And you just go, hang on a minute, let's get a reality. I always say, if you treat it like you did in the beginning, there'll never be an end. Yeah, but that's so hard because we become so complacent and so familiar with each other, don't we? I want to be super respectful of your time. We've gone down some incredible rabbit holes there. So 777. This is where we are. Let's focus on the here and now. How can people engage with it? How can they support it? And you've said Emergency Services Show. For people that don't know what that is, give us an insight as to where people can see you over the next sort of 6 months.
So obviously we're around social media. So we're posting stuff about our training, a lot of running. And also on our website, we've now got some information about the race as well. And then, we will be at the Emergency Services Show on the first day, speaking at lunchtime. But we will be there for the whole 2 days, so talking about the Great World Race, which is what it's called. So we'll be talking about that. There is a website for the race as well. We've lots of information about what it is, a little video, a little teaser to get people excited as well.
Can people still buy apparel? Because I know you had that for a period of time, or am I missing? Can they still buy that? They can still buy that. Okay, great. We're going to put some links underneath for the website, because I think the apparel is on the website as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And also, the Draeger stand are hosting us this year. So
Beautiful.
we will be based at the Draeger stand, and people can come and see us. So for the whole time, they've very kindly given us a spot on their stand.
Good eggs. So social media, website, we'll put all the links below here, and we'll put a link for the Emergency Services Show. People can attend that for free. They get in a little bit later than the exhibitors, but you can attend that for free. It's at the NEC in Birmingham. If people look into here, they'll see a link for it. I'm going to be there as well. I'm there with IDEX this year on day 1. So I will rip myself away from their stand to come and say hello and have a quick catch up and a cuddle and a chat, and just cheer you on. I always love being front and center if I can, to give you a big applause. The target is on the GoFundMe, or justgiving.com. We're going to put a link underneath for that as well to get us over that first line, to get that 10k. We're just shy of 2k at the moment, but obviously the WFS bits and bobs are also supporting within that. So everybody just look underneath here, you'll see a link to it, justgiving.com, and then the website for the Antarctic Fire Angels, and we'll put their social media handles in there as well.
Awesome.
Girls, it's always great catching up with you. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete.
The Firefighters Podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, then please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you're in the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.